Welcome in, Dween Nation. We are the Dween Sports Podcast, and we are just about to get started. But before we do, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, and share so we can continue to be your fantasy sports podcast. Thanks for being part of Dween Nation, and enjoy the show. Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Pies, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and today's a very special episode because we are discussing our bust players. I feel like a lot of times we're the high and mighty, the big projections of who is going to break out, especially our last episode. We had sleeper picks, guys that are going as values. This is the complete opposite of that. Guys that are just going too high in drafts that we just don't think are going to match their current draft positions, guys that are just not going to live up to the hype that what they're receiving. But before we dive into those bust players for 2025, how you doing, Genoa?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, I'm doing great. A little bit of a sour note here. But Justin, these are players that you and I are going to talk about that you guys out there might want to stay away from. There's a lot of storylines around a lot of these players. Maybe the coaching, maybe the targets, maybe there's some injuries. In some cases, there may be some contract disputes and issues that these players are dealing with certain teammates, which is going to affect their own production. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out there, Justin.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it's just as important knowing who not to draft as to who to draft. So we're here to help you guys, and let's dive into our bust picks. We have one in each position, so one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, and one tight end, as you will see. And I'll start us off here at the top with Patrick Mahomes, who is the kind of unanimous best quarterback in the league. Obviously, he's got a new haircut, a new style, and they just lost the Super Bowl, and maybe he's coming back feisty as ever and ready to back into a better season like we've seen maybe years ago, but not the last couple of years. I'm going to bet on that not happening because here's some reasons. I'll lay it out for you. For Mahomes, obviously, yes, he has Rashee Rice. He has Xavier Worthy. He has Travis Kelce. But let's really look at what this is going to be. You have Rashee Rice for 4 weeks. You have a 36-year-old Travis Kelce in his last leg. And then Xavier Worthy, I actually am very happy about. I think he might be a solid play, but we haven't seen him become that guy yet. He had spurts here and there. He had the Super Bowl performance. He had some games in the back half. But let's see it really come together before I really believe in it. And obviously the biggest thing that's also still holding me back from Patrick Mahomes is where he's going in drafts. He's still going in your 5th rounds. I just think it's way too early to do that. A guy who doesn't really run the ball. I think that he finds himself outside of that tier of those top 5 guys, Hurts, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, Daniels, even for me at least. He finds himself outside of that, yet he's still getting drafted just like a round behind that. I think after those 5 guys go, I'm ready to wait for guys like Bo Nix, Dak Prescott, Justin Fields, instead of trying to pick Mahomes when guys, there's still a lot of good players going around him. That I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I just think, the Chiefs know what their successful season looks like. They run the ball a lot. They play really good defense and they win close games, and they make Super Bowls. Why would they want to change that? I know last year they lost in the Super Bowl, but they can still alter things just a little bit besides changing completely and becoming a super pass first team. I just don't see it.
You know what, Justin? I'm looking up stats here. And ever since Matt Nagy left Chicago and became their offensive coordinator, they have not been in the top 10 or even top 15 in scoring as far as an offense. Now look at this, Justin. Mahomes, his first year as a starter, his first MVP. The Chiefs were the leading team as offensive as far as points per game, okay? Wow, that was 1 year. The second year, this is the year that the Chiefs won that first Super Bowl against San Fran in Miami, right? They were the 5th leading scoring team in all of the league. Okay, well, that's 2 years in a row. 2020, they're 6th, ranked 6 or 7. This is the year they faced Tampa in the Super Bowl. I mean, this goes on and on. The year that they played Cincinnati in the title game, the AFC title, they were a top 4 scoring team. And I know it goes on. I know Tyreek Hill was there, but still. And then when he gets there, Justin, they're kind of average. 2022, I think this was Bieniemy's last year as offensive coordinator. They were once again the leading team offensively scoring points per game. Now when he's there, they haven't even cracked the top 10. In the Mahomes era, they were in the top 10 almost every year, even that year without Tyreek Hill. So when Matt Nagy's there and he is the offense coordinator now, they've been kind of messing up. And you know what, Justin? It's very interesting because they have Rashee Rice last year. I know he got hurt. They had Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce. I don't know. They had Hopkins last year. I know Hollywood Brown's been in and out, but it just feels like they kind of just rely on their defense now. And I can kind of see why Mahomes isn't like the Mahomes that we kind of all fell in love with. It's kind of like, The refs are going to bail them out. The defense is going to bail them out, and that's how the Chiefs win. It's not the Mahomes magic that we saw in Super Bowl 54. It's not that, game that he had against the Rams back in, 2018, 2019. It wasn't, those firecrackers, right? And so I think that he could struggle this year. Now, I'm a big Rashee Rice fan this year, but is he going to play a full year? We don't know. Is Hollywood Brown going to be healthy this year? Who knows? Is Travis Kelce going to bounce back? I think he does. But this offense is kind of lackluster at times. It has been lackluster since Matt Nagy's been there. Now, I know Andy Reid is kind of the Darth Vader, the Emperor. He kind of makes the final say. But you know what? I think there has been some effect since Matt Nagy has been there. So I feel like since he's still there, they haven't made any changes. Bieniemy never came back. I just think that you might be right. I mean, personally for me, I still like Mahomes. I'm not drafting him in the third or fourth round like people have been for the past couple years. I think he's a great fifth or sixth round for me. But yeah, I guess I agree with you. I see your points there. Let's see what happens with his fellow wide receivers. Let's see if they even try to run the ball to help Mahomes move the chains. But yeah, I can see your point in this for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously as a fan, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, we have Chiefs fatigue," but it's just like this kind of Chiefs, the slow, methodical Chiefs. If we get old Mahomes magic, I'm all on board because that is just fun football.
Yeah.
I just find it tough that I see them switching to that, knowing that their defense is solid. And one last little stat: the last 3 years, Mahomes has finished lower than his average draft position in each of those years. So he's constantly being a bust by where he's going. And so I'm just going to hold off. If he drops, maybe I'll pick him. But that's my bust for this year. We'll jump to you, though. You have Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, Justin. Okay, the one thing that kind of started this thought production with myself is what's going on with Terry McLaurin. It does not seem like he's actually really putting his foot down now. Hopefully something can change along the way for Terry McLaurin. He comes back. But if not, Justin, I'm actually starting to get a little worried. We still have a week before it's like panic zone because once September 1st comes around, and it's like his status is up in the air for week 1, I'm starting to get worried because Terry McLaurin was a great factor why, he was there. Jaden Daniels' production was good. Well, a second thing is Jaden Daniels' run production. I'm a little worried about. Yes, he scored a touch on the preseason game against the Bengals just a few nights ago. However, I think that with starters there, NFL defenses are going to be able to pick up on that with Terry McLaurin not being there. And another thing, looking at his supporting cast, right? I have some doubts now. There is a possibility that Brian Robinson will not be on this team by the beginning of next week. He is looking like a cut candidate, if not a trade candidate, Justin. And so that already is like, well, that kind of affects the production of Jaden Daniels, right? Because Brian Robinson did have 8 rushing touchdowns, 800 rushing yards, and I feel like him not being there is going to affect it. Like, they do have old man Austin Eckler there. They have another guy there, but still, like, old man Austin Eckler who's 30, 31. Like, I'm just not buying that that's going to be able to move the chains now. I like Brian Robinson, so he might not be there. Along the fact that Terry McLaurin might not be there. They do have Zach Ertz, who, in my opinion, Justin, I think he's a Hall of Famer. But how much production is he going to offer for Jaden Daniels, who will be 34, 35 at some point here in the NFL season? A 35-year-old tight end leading this Washington, I just don't see it. They do have some other targets that I do like. I like Noah Brown. I do like Luke McCaffrey, KJ Osborne, who was good once upon a time in Minnesota, wasn't good in New England not too long ago. I just have some doubts that, I'm a little worried. I mean, it's Cliff Kingsbury there. He is going to make it work. Now, looking at the schedule before I hit it to you, he gets the Giants, which I like, but then a short week Thursday night in Green Bay. He does get the Raiders, I like. He does get Atlanta. He gets the Chargers. It's iffy. It's up in the air. I'm not sure if I like these matchups with no Terry, no Brian Robinson, no one really. Like, if they had a young tight end, Justin, like if they had a Mason Taylor, or maybe if they had like a Laporte or someone young under 28 or something, I would actually still like Jaden McDaniel. But the fact that you're taking his number one RB away, his number one wide receiver away, obviously we want to believe in Debo like a Kyle Pitts, but is he going to be able to sustain health throughout the year? I mean, he was on a great offense in San Francisco, goes to Washington. Is he going to be able to, refresh his career? Who knows? And that's just something I'm very concerned about. Not to mention, I think NFL defense are going to find a way to stop his rushing ability.
Jaden Daniels is a really tough case for me this season because all the points you bring up are actually completely on the nose. If Terry McLaurin missing this time, valuable training camp time, is going to damage Jaden Daniels' value. I mean, he was the 13 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards last year for McLaurin. That coming in late, not getting that chemistry rebonded is really going to hurt him. And then, got Zach Ertz, who's another year older. They do have Ben Sinnott, who was the guy they picked in the second round last year, he's fine. I don't know if he's really in line for a big breakout. And then they brought in, obviously, Deebo Samuel, who he did look kind of good in the preseason game on Monday. But, I think he's going to be solid, but he's not a guy that's, demanding, over 5, receptions a game. That's not going to happen. That's not who he is this time in his career. The thing that really comes down to if Daniels is valuable enough is that rushing production that he brings. A lot of it was scramble production, which to me is not a sticky stat, of a guy has to scramble, he's got to scramble. It's not like a designed run, even though he did still have a lot of good design runs. But I think overall his total may go down in rushing that you were talking about. So I think that he's kind of tough. He's honestly, out of those top 5 quarterbacks that I mentioned earlier, or maybe that was last episode with Allen, Lamar, Hurts, Burrow, and Daniels. Daniels is my least favorite of those 5. Maybe he even finds himself in a tier of his own under those top 4. But currently he's going at the quarterback 3 in your third round of your drafts. So you're going to have to take high capital on him. But we don't know. You're right. We don't know what his wide receiver 1 looks like or his running back 1 for the time being. So I think you make really good points that Daniels might be a guy we take the break from in 2025. I'll move to running back, where I have Breece Hall. With the Jets, man, it's tough because I actually like Justin Fields. We talked about him on the last episode, but Breece Hall finds himself in a spot where he's got Braylon Allen. He's even got Isaiah Davis, who are vying for first team snaps. And, I like Tanner Engstrand as the offensive coordinator, but Breece Hall has come out multiple times now, and he sounds just like a girlfriend who's been heartbroken. Like, they didn't pick me. I don't know if they want me. And, it's his contract season, which normally I bet on contract season being breakout season because they're trying to get their bag, rightfully so. But I just think that this team might want to look in a different direction. I think Braylon Allen, obviously last year wasn't super efficient, but he was also only 20 years old last season. Now he's 21, another year in the NFL. He's a big back. I think he can demand a lot of carries. And then you got Isaiah Davis, who I think is a really solid receiving back. He was super quick and elusive in his small sample size as a contributor for them last year. And Breece Hall, obviously, we know he has the capabilities to be an RB1. He was 2 years ago. But I just find it tough to see that he's going to get that workload that we need for him to be a top back.
Yeah, Justin, I can kind of see where you're coming from. I think that, I propose a Breece Hall for Brian Robinson trade. Maybe Breece Hall can benefit in Washington, and maybe Brian Robinson and Braylon Allen can leave the backfield there in New York. And so I just feel like, looking at last year, Breece Hall played 16 games, didn't hit 1,000 yards, only had 5 rushing touchdowns. He did okay in the receiving area with 3 receiving touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers being there. But is he going to get receiving touchdowns and receiving looks with Justin Fields there? I just don't see it, Justin, to be honest. So I can see his receiving, work share going down low. I definitely think on third down scenarios, there's definitely going to be a ton of Braylon Allen. I mean, third and long, maybe a third and 5th, third and 6th. I just don't see Breece Hall being in those categories. And maybe the pass block, but he's not getting anything out of those. He's not going to get a rush. I think Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis can be in those, situations for New York. So I definitely see where you're going there. For me, I'm gonna believe in Breece Hall. But something just definitely has a red flag waving. It doesn't seem like the Jets are committed to him. Like, I think Tampa Bay is more committed to Bucky Irving by far, with Rashad White there, than New York is committed to Breece Hall. And so that's very concerning. If I would advise fantasy owners like me, it's very tempting to go Breece Hall in the 3rd, 4th round. Maybe like the 4th is like the earliest I go for Breece Hall. If you can get him in the 5th, or if he falls the 5th or 6th, that's a steal in my opinion. But there's definitely a couple running backs I definitely take over him, like Hampton, like the rookies, RJ Harvey, Trayvon Henderson. Those are guys I'd take over Breece Hall for sure. And it's not anything to do with Breece Hall's talent. It's just everything to do with this coaching staff. I just don't think they believe in Breece Hall.
And I'm really glad you brought up those guys kind of going in his area, because Breece Hall's currently going at the ADP 33 overall in fantasy drafts. which has him at RB 14, but that is literally one spot ahead of Omari and Hampton. He's going ahead of George Kittle, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Hurts, Marvin Harrison Jr., Alvin Kamara, Travion Henderson, Juba Hubbard even. So he's going ahead of some guys that I just will not pull that trigger for him over them. But you're right. If he drops maybe a round or two, might be worth the value. But where he's going, I'm not taking him. We'll jump to your running back bust for this season, and that is Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, Justin. I mean, this one, it doesn't really need that long of a take there. Obviously, Alvin Kamara, he's getting up there in age. But then, Justin, he doesn't have a quarterback. He doesn't have a Drew Brees. He doesn't even have a Derek Carr or a Jameis Winston. And it's just like he has whether Tyler Show or Shug or Show, whatever, or Spencer Rattler. And I just don't know if they know how to use Kamara. Now, Kellen Moore is the coach there now in New Orleans, and he did really good with Saquon. Did really good a year with Eckler, and then obviously he was there in Dallas for some Tony Pollard magic. I just feel like the age is getting up there. I feel like there's no Drew Brees, there's no Sean Payton. I think that the blowouts are going to be stacked in New Orleans, and I just don't know. I just don't know what we're going to get out of the Saints. Are they going to be a surprise team that everybody's down on? Oh, they're going to be the first pick of the draft next year, but they end up pulling a Denver where it's like, oh, they make the playoffs. However, Denver had a rookie quarterback that they picked in the first round, right? Like, Saints didn't really do too crazy. And, like, yeah, they have Chris Olave that can move the chains. They did bring back Brandon Cooks, but it's just like, I don't know, Justin. Like, how are they going to move with this quarterback, right? Is Kellen Moore a good head coach like he was an offensive coordinator? Like, is it just one of those things where it's like Cliff Kingsbury is a great offensive coordinator, but he's not a good head coach? Like, is that what we might see with Kellen Moore? And it's like, I don't know. Alvin Kamara also has never rushed for 1,000 yards. And it's crazy because he's a guy that's been picked, in the first rounds from like 2018 to like 2022. Like, that was a running back. And it's crazy. He's got a lot of mileage. I just don't know what we're going to see out of him. And for that, I'm just really concerned.
Yeah, you have really valid concerns. Obviously, the quarterback position's, to me, the biggest one. As you mentioned, they don't even have a Derek Carr. They have a Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler. It's very unappealing, and new coaching staff. So I just think that all of that together is really not going to work out. I did look at his schedule, and for the running back position, he has actually the easiest schedule in the first half of the season, which is that's impressive to say. I mean, he's got an early season good setup for him, but I can literally guarantee you that he will not win you a fantasy championship, because I think he is maybe in store for early in the year. They know that, Chuck or Rattler are going to need help big time. And I think that his usage could go too much, so much that it just breaks him and he gets injured. Like, he's 30 years old now. He's no young buck. I think this is, 30 years old is also when a lot of running backs kind of hit that cliff and start falling downwards. I think that's where Kamara's at. And you're right. It's just going to be a really bad team. On TikTok, I did a prediction that I think they don't win more than one football game this year. And that means that I know they're going to be down a lot. And a lot of people are like, oh, my God, they're going to be losing every game. They're going to have to pass it. And Kamara's going to get all these targets. Very possible. But I just think that it's just not going to be good targets. And this team's not going to be in the red zone often. So I don't think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns this year. You're right. I think he was on the short list for bust for me as well. So I think you make a really good pick there as for a guy that's just not going to return value for you in fantasy this year. We'll move to wide receiver where I have Tyreek Hill. And this hurts because obviously Tyreek can break fantasy when he plays well. But, man, it just seems like he's becoming a cancer on this team. And more this team is just breaking down to the studs. I mean, poor Devon Achane came up with a calf injury. The secondary is literally going to be the worst in football. The defensive line is fine. The offensive line is a bottom 5 in the league. And I just don't like Tua as a quarterback. I think he's just meh. And, I mean, the defenses found out how to cover the Dolphins last year. Just simple cover 2. Don't let deep plays happen. And when that happened, Tyreek Hill became really ineffective. And this year they've been butting heads. I mean, even Tua said that it's still a process, work in progress to get them kind of back and gelling, because he asked to be. He was like, I'm done with this team at the end of last year. And I just find it hard to believe in a guy that maybe his own team even doubts him. And, if he wasn't getting, the bag that he's getting, he might have been moved already. So Tyreek Hill's just a tough one. Now, I understand the belief in him because, 2 years ago, he was the wide receiver one. He was a lot of people's first or second pick last year. And that's hard to really bet against, especially, now that he's going in like that third round range. So you're thinking that's a value. And for some, I completely see your point and your ideals on that. I just find it tough for the Dolphins to find success this year on offense. And I just think he's going to be unreliable.
Yeah, Justin. I mean, we're not guaranteeing that Tua's going to play a full year this year. I mean, there's been a ton of scary moments with him, and when he's not in there, I mean, Tyreek Hill hardly ever gets looked at. Even guys like Jalen Waddle, his stock goes down, and he had a disappointing last year with Waddle. And I think that last year, obviously Tyreek is getting up there in age, and it's just like they have Zach Wilson as a backup. Like that already is so concerning. There's not like a Joe Flacco or a Jameis Winston that can just, I don't care who's, I'm just going to throw it. They don't have that. They have Quinn Ewers as a third. I mean, I know I'm very too familiar with Quinn Ewers, so I don't even know if he's going to be able to know what to do with an offense like that as a rookie. And so I don't know. I'm just very concerned. Like if Tua gets hurt, like Tyreek Hill is a great flex at best. Like, I mean, I don't know. He becomes automatic like trade target. Like you just throwing him in any trade you can. And so that's my biggest deal. It really, Justin, it all depends on Tua. Like, is Tua healthy? Is he 100%? Like, because he could be playing, but he could not be dialed in. Like, he could have, like, Justin, he's had some really serious head injuries. Like, that can play into effect mentally with your mechanics, with your confidence. And that's what Tyreek Hill really came to Miami for. I mean, obviously the money, but he felt like Tua was very accurate. He was talking about him after leaving Mahomes. Justin, it's very interesting. I think week 7, week 8, I don't know what the trade deadline is. I don't know where do you think I'm going with this? Week 7, week 8, let's say Tua's not thing. Miami's not doing so good. You think maybe Brett Veach or maybe that offense in Kansas City kind of makes a call to Miami, makes a little reunion there. That would change things for sure, Justin, right? I think a reunion is big time called there. I don't know if they have the cap space for that. But yeah, definitely concerning. It's mainly because of Tua, and his health is so fragile. But even with Tua is in there, I mean, is he going to return to 2023, Tyreek? I don't know, Justin. I'm very concerned.
I think you make really good points there. We'll continue to your wide receiver bust this season, and the Bills wide receiver. So we got ourselves a collection of guys. I'll let you run with the floor.
Yeah, Justin, this all includes Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. I know they got Joshua Palmer, who I actually like Joshua Palmer. He did really good when needed there and with the Chargers. But Justin, I just feel like, look, first of all, I'm going to tell you Josh Allen's passing stat. He won MVP, but he did not get to 30 passing touchdowns. He only had 28 passing touchdowns. Justin, do you want to know who led the Bills last year in receiving touchdowns? Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins, who I don't even know where Mac Hollins is. He's a New England Patriot now. Yeah. So he led the Bills in receiving touchdowns. That leaves Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, who did have 800 receiving yards with 4 touchdowns. There's a Curtis Samuel, no one's drafting. So the 3 main receivers are Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Joshua Palmer. Like that to me, it's not attractive. I'm sorry. I mean, this was a team that had Stephon Diggs, and yes, I think they are in the talks of bringing back Gabe Davis in Buffalo, but still, Gabe Davis was still unimpressive with Stephon Diggs being there. And they should have made a move. They should have made a trade in this draft to get Emeka Egbuka. Maybe they should have made a trade like what the Eagles did a few years ago to get an A.J. Brown, right? Maybe they should have got a Debo. Maybe they should trade and go get Terry McLaurin, Justin. I mean, Washington would do Justin. Washington would do that trade because Buffalo is not in their division nor their conference. So it's not like they're giving him away. Maybe they might face off in the potential Super Bowl, but I mean, those are layers and layers away. They got to get through Kansas City and Baltimore, my Texas, Chargers, Cincinnati, on and on and on, right? So that's a team that like they should have made the move. Now, if you can get a Terry McLaurin in Buffalo, I like that for Shakir. I like that for Joshua Palmer. I even like that for the tight end, Dalton Kincaid. But other than that, Justin, I'm a big Joshua Palmer fan, but I just don't think he's any factor at all. If Gabe Davis comes back, maybe he gets 500 yards for 4 touchdowns. But Justin, I mean, Josh Allen won MVP strictly because of this receiving cast. Like Lamar Jackson had a better core around him. Yes, he has Derrick Henry, but I would take Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman as wide receivers all day, any day over anybody in Buffalo. post Stephon Diggs era, right, Justin? So I'm very concerned with this wide receiving core. Obviously, you're still drafting Josh Allen because he's going to find different receivers. Maybe you'll find a Keon Coleman 1 week, and then you won't hear a Keon Coleman for 5 weeks. Then you'll hear of Shakir, or maybe like I'm looking at the depth chart here, maybe a KJ Hamler, former Bronco. Maybe they throw Dawson Knox at the wide slot. So it's just not to mention the rushing ability of Josh Allen's why he gets picked so high. But other than that, Justin, honestly, I kind of get a little nauseous thinking about the Bills wide receivers, and I'm just not excited about it. I think even last year was better.
Yeah, I mean, and last year, you're right. They showed us, the Bills showed us, Josh Allen showed us that you can win an MVP, you can be a top 2 fantasy quarterback without having a top 40 wide receiver. I mean, it normally does not happen, but now we have seen it, and it works. And I just don't. You're right. I mean, there's obviously opportunity for Keon Coleman to step into year 2 to become more of a focal point, or Dalton Kincaid in year 3. But you're right. It's more likely to not happen than it will. And I see why they're not super appealing pieces. It's weird to say that with Josh Allen being their quarterback, but I completely see your point there. And so yeah, I'm also hesitant on the Bills in 2025, at least for the wide receiver position. We'll move to tight ends, where I have to do it again. It hurts my heart. Last year I did it. I was right, but still hurt through it. I had Sam Laporta as my tight end bust for the year, and I have him on this list once again. And it hurts because Sam Laporta, obviously his rookie year was just a phenomenon. I had him in our big league, and I was just so happy. He helped me make fantasy playoffs, and it's just tough for me to see his opportunities go up in any way this year. I think this Detroit team takes a step back. I'm not saying back to where they're just not a good offense anymore, but they're going to take a clear step backwards in 2025. The losing Ben Johnson means a lot, and losing Frank Ragnow means a lot. And I just think that it's going to be really tough for him. He was the tight end 7 last season, currently going at tight end 4. And I just don't think it's going to be better for him in 2025. They still have a lot of mouths to feed. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs. And so I just think it's tough for him to find a spot where he is a consistent and valuable piece to your fantasy football team, especially where he's going in the 5th round of drafts. I just can't do it. And he needs to have, he had 7 touchdowns last year. He needs to have 8 or more to really return value, and I just don't see it happening this season.
Yeah, Justin. I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie to you. This pains me to see this because I'm a big Laporta fan. I know you are too. This is going to be a Jamison Williams breakout year. You still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're right. There's so many mouths to feed there. And looking at what the Detroit Lions kind of lost, they lost Ben Johnson. And that to me is like the nucleus. We just don't know what we're going to get at the new offensive coordinator. Not to mention, I like Tim Patrick, who's the wide receiver 3, and I think he's going to get a lot of targets this year. He was really good in Denver. Unfortunately, he had back-to-back ACL injuries, which kept him out. I think that him being healthy now, year or so and some change removed from those injuries, I think he's going to get a lot of targets. I want to believe in him. It's just Jared Goff on the road, concerns me. He starts the week off at Green Bay. Then he's got to go to Baltimore week 3. These are 2 stadiums already that are open, no roof, right, Justin? Then you go to Cincinnati, no roof. Then you go to Kansas City, no roof. You go to Washington, no roof. Lincoln Field in Philadelphia, no roof. Then literally SoFi Stadium is, I guess, SoFi Stadium in Minnesota. But this is week 15 and week 17. The only 2 outdoor stadiums that Jared Goff's going to be in. That affects it, in my opinion. That's a big factor. He could be good at home. Laporta's a good tight end at home. But then again, Jared Goff has those games where Amon-Ra has 2 touchdowns. But then Gibbs has 2 touchdowns. Oh, but wait. Williams has, but wait. Montgomery has 2 touchdowns. It's just, I can see it. The name, though, Laporta, Sam Laporta, his age, it's attractive. It's very tempting to draft rounds 3 or 4. And so it's very hot and cold. It's very wishy-washy, up and down, left and right, inside out with Sam Laporta. I want to agree with you. I want to disagree with you. I'm in between. And so I can see where you're coming from there, though, Justin.
And honestly, if you want to, this only helps my take that Laporta is going to be a bust. But I think literally 4 of those 7 touchdowns he had last year were on trick plays that Ben Johnson is just smart and able to cook up. and he's gone. Like, I mean, I know we talked about it. He's gone. Those plays are not going to be as frequent or as effective. So that's why I have Laporta as a bust. We'll move to your bust, which I actually have a lot of words for, but I'll throw it to you to start. George Kittle.
Yeah, Justin, look, George Kittle, just like Laporta, it's very attractive. It's something that you want to draft in the first 4 to 5 rounds. You know that once Brock Bowers and Trey McBride is taken up, that's the next guy that you're gunning to get, because you know someone's going to draft McBride in the second or third round. I've seen it in mock drafts. You know Bowers just as well is going to fall in that same area. So you know that you can get Kittle when you can wait an extra round or two to get your extra running back, your right wide receiver. You might go Lamar or Josh Allen and come back around and get George Kittle. But Justin, I have concerns with San Francisco, Justin. Their wide receiving core, I mean, they got rid of Deebo Samuel. Justin, who knows what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk. I mean, he might play, he might not. He's going to be, he's already got his money, so I don't know. So those are 2 wide receivers. I like Ricky Pearsall there. And I've heard there was some injuries in training camp, but it looks like it's cleared up. So maybe he might just be the only guy there. Juwan Jennings, I think there's some talks of getting rid of him. Who knows? I don't know if he's batting injured. It doesn't look like it so far. So, it is Juwan. He is questionable. There's Juwan Jennings and Pearsall. There's the only 2 wide receivers. And Kittle, I mean, he's been injury prone there, Justin. I mean, let's just be real. He's like I would say he's the Aaron Jones of tight ends, right? He can take it, he can take it all the way, but when he is hurt, and you will not hear from him there, Justin. And so I'm really concerned there. And also, if I'm being honest, Justin, I'm a little concerned for Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers as a whole. Like, I mean, is Christian McCaffrey going to be the main focal point? Is he healthy? Is he 100%? Where is Christian McCaffrey? If he's not in there, Justin, how does this offense move without him, right? Looking at Kittle, he did play 15 games last year, and that's just pushing it for Kittle. He did have 8 touchdowns, barely 1,100 yards, but it's just like, can he do it again, Justin? I'm just getting concerned. He's getting older in age. He will be 32 in the middle of the season. So I'm just concerned, Justin. Like, I just don't know. Like, it was the 49ers of old, the Debos of old, the Ayuks of old. Juwan Jennings, Super Bowl Juwan Jennings, or week 2 or 3 when they played the Rams, and he had 4 touchdowns. Like, is this offense going to be the same? McCaffrey rolling, Purdy rolling. I just don't see it. And I think that's going to affect Kittle's value.
Yeah, Kittle. All right, this one I'm also similar to how you were feeling about Laporta. I'm on the fence, and it's kind of the flip on what you were saying. With the fact that there's such a lack of pass catchers for Purdy and for this offense, I think Kittle's just going to find himself with a lot of targets this year. And that's why it's tough for me to run away from him, especially because, last year he technically finished number 1 at the tight end position in points per game. And I was, looking at it, to see how bad his injury history is. The last few years, he hasn't missed more than 3 games. So, you're going to pencil in maybe a couple games missed, which kind of sucks. It's kind of that Ken Walker treatment. He's going to miss some games. But I think when he's on the field, he's just going to be a good piece for you. And I look at it, we haven't seen the 49ers with Shanahan have really back-to-back bad seasons. And that's what makes it tough to say no to George Kittle. I do see all the points that he might just not be that guy to pick up. I mean, he's 31 years old, gonna be 32. So he's getting older. I just find it hard for him not to get the volume this season. With Debo gone and Ayuk hurt and Juwan hurt and Pearsall being, there. And I know he's going to be solid. I actually do like Pearsall as well. But, we'll see how much he, becomes kind of a volume hog for them. And then, of course, McCaffrey out of the backfield. But this is kind of the only take that I'm kind of more on the side of wanting him, but I do see your points against George Kittle this season. But Dween Nation, those are our bust picks, our players to avoid for the 2025 fantasy football season. Drop your thoughts, drop your questions and comments, and please give it a like and share it if you want, and subscribe to help build Dween Sports, the brand that is Dween Sports, because we want to just continue to get bigger as a brand, as well as helping you guys win your fantasy championships. But thank you guys for listening, and Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dwayne, this was our bust players for fantasy this year. Episodes of the week. Thank you guys for watching. We're so excited for the season. So go ahead and keep reviewing our content. Let us know what you think. Comment down below for some players you missed, or kind of maybe comment on the players that we talked about. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you project their stats to be this year? But thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. And as always, peace.